correspondent, senior political correspondent for the Daily Express, Christian Calgi. Jade, Christian, thanks so much for being with us and giving up some of your Sunday morning. We appreciate it. Let's get straight into this one. Front of the Sunday Times. It's in all the papers, of course, because it's the big news of the day. Jade, the UK about to recognise the state of Palestine. Yes,
invariably the biggest story of the day. So this has been a long time coming. This obviously comes off the back of a July announcement that the Prime Minister made that if Israel failed to meet its conditions, which was basically to reduce hostility in Gaza, that they would recognise the state of Palestine. This also comes off the back, obviously, of the Trump visit. So there are obviously stories about how this might cause a backlash in the US. But the Prime Minister has placed his bets that this is the right thing to do, as he mentions here. It's obviously, as he calls it, a moral duty. But also it's going to be met with quite a bit of relief on the Labour benches for certain. The party has been calling for this for quite some time.
Yeah, and it will do that, won't it, Christian? It will sort of assuage a lot of the issues he will have with his members.
Well, exactly, but I think this is, it is very cynical policy making. There's a poll which isn't on the Telegraph splash, but it is in there. Very interesting poll that finds that only 13% of voters actually back the policy as it is, 13, and that actually falls to 11% of Labour members. Now, that's when asked, do you support recognising Palestine without any conditions attached, which is, essentially what is happening here, and over half the public don't support recognising Palestine while Hamas have any power in the region.
Well, let's bring up the Telegraph then, because that sort of speaks to some of what I think the government are going to try and start saying, because they're talking about extra sanctions on Hamas. I mean, I would have thought that Hamas was sanctioned completely and fully anywhere.
Well, exactly. Yes,
more to do.
You would think so, and therefore you would also assume that any further sanctions on Gaza would be incompatible with the, with some of the issues that Keir Starmer's trying to address. I mean, how do you sanction a country that's already under siege and facing food shortages, for example? But yes, so we wait to find out precisely what these new sanctions will be. But this is obviously trying to get ahead of the inevitable criticism, and also, as they rightly say, that it will be seen as an attempt to placate Donald Trump after the pair quite openly basically said they disagreed, which I thought was quite stark, given, in relative diplomatic language terms.
It's always been quite surprising, actually, for all of the discontent domestically. Starmer's often taken quite a hard stance on foreign policies, been quite OK to come up against Trump. So I reckon he's seeing some political capital, at the very least, in sort of going toe-to-toe with Trump.
At least showing that you've got some kind of backbone and you're willing to disagree with the man who everyone says can't be disagreed with.
Yes.
But also, I think they've also got a group of 16 relatives of Israeli hostages wrote to Keir Starmer yesterday, saying that he's dramatically complicated efforts to bring our loved ones home. And I think the question that we've all got to ask about this is, what does this actually do? I mean, to me, it seems like virtue signalling. Recognising Palestine as a state doesn't necessarily give them any additional leverage. It doesn't give us any additional leverage with either of the parties. So it's all just quite confusing. As I say, it does feel a bit like virtue signalling over a really important issue. I
mean, their argument is that with Israel annexing more parts of the West Bank, the idea of there being a two-state solution is becoming vanishingly small. So if you don't do it at this point, I mean, some will actually say that this should have been done by the UK government a long time ago to give as a sense.
That I think is the crux of the position. If they don't do something now, that dream dies in view of many people, particularly Palestinians as well.
I mean, I visited Israel a few months before October the 7th, and I came away just thinking that a two-state solution is bluntly unachievable anyway. On both sides of the argument, I just think views in both Israel and Palestine have become so entrenched and so hate-filled about the other person. And, it's nowhere like, nothing like, the situation we had with Northern Ireland, for example. I just don't see the two coming around.
And try and solve Middle East.
Yeah, we should sort it out.
Just finally. I mean, is it one state? Is that the option then? Is that what people are suggesting in Israel?
Well, that's what Trump's suggesting, isn't it? The guy with his Riviera Gaza proposal.
Situation we may find ourselves in. All right. Good talk. Let's move on. Where are we here? It's The Sun, modern slavery. Who wants to pick up on this?
Yes, so this is very interesting figures that the rate of migrants claiming to be modern slaves in order to dodge deportation has skyrocketed by 250% in 4 years. There were 4,650 referrals on modern slavery last year, an enormous jump from 2020. Albeit 65% of the referrals were found to have been made with no reasonable grounds, compared to 16% in 2020. So clearly, and this obviously comes after the government was embarrassed when they tried deporting an Eritrean man under its returns agreement with France, and that was, kiboshed last minute because they lodged a modern slavery referral. And I think it's very interesting, especially those statistics around the percentage that had no reasonable grounds. It does seem like it speaks to a wider issue for me, which is that migrants, it's not just migrants, I think all elements of benefit claimants, ordinary people, seem to be getting better at the government. They seem to be better informed. They know how to use the rule book against the government, and the government needs to get a lot smarter with the rules.
Okay.
I think the government, in its reshuffle recently with Shabana Mahmood coming in as the new Home Secretary, are hoping to get a grip on that and turn the page. She's talked a very hard game on this, and they're hoping that, with a fresh face, and she's talked about rewriting the guidance on this, they're really hoping to, like I said, turn the page on issues such as this, and it's necessary at this point politically.
You think so with those? The Modern Slavery Act came in 2015. Is it going to be an element that people will say needs to be rewritten, like the Human Rights Act and the ECHR?
Absolutely. I mean, we know Reform currently have the broadest policy on this. I think the Tories, they're not even yet in favour of leaving the ECHR, but Reform actually do acknowledge that it's not just the ECHR, because there's also the European Convention on Trafficking and the UN Refugee Convention. So there are lots of things, not just domestic legislation, although I do wish Shabana Mahmood well, because I think she's quite sound. I'm sure it's not the endorsement she wants.
Shall we please hear it? Where are we next, then? We're going to the Mail now.
Yes.
You can pick this up, Jade.
Yes, so just to turn the page on to a Tory story. So obviously we're talking at length about government troubles, but obviously it's hard to miss where the Tories stand. They stand anywhere between 16 to 18% in most polls.
That's right,
and as we go into conference season, that around the future of the Tory party is only going to begin heating up. We obviously had Danny Kruger, the MP that defected recently to Reform. We might anticipate quite a few more may also go over. You've got Sir John Hayes here also talking about our party must change or it will wither and die. So there is some genuine trouble coming down, and Danny Kruger is basically saying here that there is a countdown clock on Kemi Badenoch's leadership.
Yikes.
They specifically claim that a sitting Conservative MP has started a new Twitter account called Kemi Countdown, which is counting down the number of days until the first leadership challenge could be launched.
That lettuce, it's only a matter of time.
You say about the ECHR, I mean, the Conservatives are going to announce they're going to leave it at conference, aren't they?
Yeah,
right.
But I mean...
Why haven't they done that before?
Because, well, exactly. I mean, they're going to announce a policy that Reform have already completely stolen a lead on, and they're not going to be as hardline as Reform. So I don't really know what they're thinking. But it was just, I mean, I was hypothesising earlier. I do wonder if the reason why Tory MPs are not acting, it's like that. The thing of the lobster in the boiling water. They panicked when Liz Truss collapsed because there was a jolt in the polls. Yeah. Whereas under Kemi, it's just been this long slide from about whatever it was, 3% to 16%, and they've not quite noticed that they'll completely,
Who is the option within the party?
Well, I don't know. I think there was more than a grain of truth in what Danny Kruger said about it's probably Reform's lead is too entrenched and been too long in the tooth now for someone like Robert Jenrick to come back and turn it round.
How much can you out-reform Reform at this point, right? You have to set out your own stall. And they just haven't.
To give a sort of more balanced, positive word, I do think Kemi has been right in recent months to focus on the economy. And surprisingly, the Tories do actually have a small lead on the economy.
OK, Christian. Jade, thank you so much for that. More from you in the next hour of the programme. Of course, we'll be back after this very short break with all of the day's top stories.
We arrive